The apartment door on the ground floor of the Verada block had a slot too small for a real meal, and Deli slid the noodle carton through it sideways, the way you learn to when a customer never opens up. The carton stuck halfway. He heard nothing on the other side. No footsteps, no thank you, no rustle of someone hungry pulling food toward them, just a faint clicking, like fingernails tapping glass, and then the smell that hit him through the gap and made him take a step back. It was the smell of something drying out, something running low. Deli was 17 and had been running deliveries across the eastern arcologies for 2 seasons, long enough to know that this order was wrong in 3 ways. It had come in without a name. It had been paid in old municipal credits, the kind refugees carried. And the delivery address was flagged in his handset as a quarantine unit, sealed by the housing authority, supposedly empty. He crouched and looked through the slot. In the dark of the apartment, low to the floor, 2 eyes reflected back at him. They were wide and ringed with a pale membrane set in a face that was not human, gray-skinned and narrow, the jaw trembling. The alien girl did not reach for the food. She only looked at him, and her long fingers curled tight against her chest as though holding something in. "Hey," Deli said softly, "you have to eat. It is getting cold." She spoke, and her voice was a thin, dry rasp that his handset struggled to translate. The words came through broken. "Not safe. If I make sound, they come. If I eat, I make sound. So I am quiet." Deli sat back on his heels. He had grown up in the flood districts where people learned to disappear when the enforcement drones swept through. He knew what it looked like when someone had decided that hunger was safer than being noticed. "Who comes?" he asked. The girl's eyes flicked upward, toward the ceiling, toward the floors above. Then back to him. "The custodians. They count us. When the number is wrong, they take one. I am the wrong number. So I must be silent and small and nothing." Deli did not fully understand yet, but he understood enough. He pushed the carton the rest of the way through the slot. "Eat quiet," he said. "I will figure out the rest." She waited until he turned his face away, as if being watched while eating was the danger. Then he heard the smallest sound, the softest possible swallowing, a girl trying to survive without existing. He should have logged the delivery and moved on. Instead, he sat in the corridor and pulled up the building registry on his handset. The Verada block had taken in a wave of refugees from a colony world the year before, a species called the Sune, small and quiet and easy to overlook. The registry said the ground floor was sealed and vacant, but the water usage told a different story. A trickle every night, always after the counting hour. Deli learned the shape of it over the next several days, one delivery at a time. He started ordering the food himself, paying out of his own thin wages, marking the runs as personal so no name attached to that door. The custodians were not government. They were a private security contractor the Arcology Council had hired to manage the refugee floors, paid a fee for every registered resident, and penalized for every one over the housing cap. So the contractor had found a simple solution. Each night they counted heads. When a floor exceeded its allowance, they removed the excess and reported them as never having arrived. The paperwork stayed clean. The credits kept flowing. The girl's name, he finally coaxed out of her, was Yenu. She had come across on a transport with her mother, and the count had been wrong from the first night. And her mother had made her hide in the sealed unit and had gone up to be counted in her place, and had not come back. Yenu had been silent for a long time, long enough that the drying smell was her own body starting to fail. "Why not run?" Deli asked through the slot. "Why not go to the street?" "Because outside I am uncounted," she rasped. "Uncounted is not a person. A drone finds me. It does not arrest me. It disposes. Inside, at least, the walls do not report a sound that never happens. That was the trap, and Deli sat with it. The custodians did not need to find Yenu. They only needed her to stay silent forever, starving in a sealed room, until the problem solved itself and the record stayed clean. Silence was not her shield. Silence was the weapon being used against her. He could have gone to the council. But the council paid the custodians, and a delivery boy from the flood districts accusing a licensed contractor would vanish faster than the girl. He could have gone to the news feeds, but proof was a sealed room he was not authorized to open, and the moment he named it, they would empty it. So Deli did the thing he actually knew how to do. He was a delivery boy. He moved through the arcology unseen, one carton at a time, and nobody counted him because nobody counted the people who carried food to other people. Over 2 weeks, he stopped feeding only Yenu. He started asking questions on his routes, quietly, the way you ask when you already suspect the answer. He found others, a sealed maintenance level with water running at night, a supposedly empty storage floor that ordered soup through a vent. The custodians had done this again and again, across a dozen refugee floors, hiding the overflow of desperate people in dead spaces and letting hunger do the counting for them. Deli built a map, not of rooms, but of orders, every silent mouth that food went to and no name came back from. The night it broke open, the custodians came early. Yenu heard the counting drones in the corridor above her hours ahead of schedule and pressed herself flat against the wall, and through the slot she whispered to Deli, who was crouched outside with a carton he had not yet pushed through. They know. Someone reported the water. They are clearing the floor tonight. Deli's hands went cold. If they cleared the floor, Yenu became a disposal, uncounted, gone by morning with clean paperwork. He had days of evidence, and no time left to use it carefully. So he stopped being careful. He stood up in the corridor, and he did the one thing the whole system was built to prevent. He made Yenu loud. He pulled his delivery handset, the one that logged every drop-off to the public arcology network for customer verification, and he began filing deliveries. Not one. Hundreds. Every silent address he had mapped over 2 weeks, he logged as a completed food delivery, right now, in a burst, each one stamped with a real transaction and a real recipient at a real unit inside a supposedly empty floor. The network did what networks do. It confirmed them. It published them. It created, in the space of a few minutes, an official public record that hundreds of people were living, eating, and receiving deliveries in rooms the custodians had sworn were vacant. Then, he did the same for Yenu's door. Over and over, her uncounted units suddenly generating a cascade of verified human commerce. A girl who had been nothing now stamped across the public ledger as a customer who existed, who ate, who was owed a delivery, who could not simply be disposed of without 100 confirmed transactions asking where she went. The counting drones reached Yenu's corridor. Deli stood in front of her door. He heard them stop. He heard the security channel crackle as the custodian operators upstairs realized their sealed floors were lighting up the public network with hundreds of verified residents, on camera, on record, time-stamped, undeniable. To dispose of the overflow now was to erase people the whole arcology had just watched receive dinner. The clean paperwork was gone. The silence was gone. And a private contractor cannot make hundreds of publicly confirmed customers disappear at once without the exact scandal it had spent a year avoiding. The drones pulled back, not in fear of a weapon, in fear of witnesses, of records, of a boy who had turned the machinery of ordinary delivery against them and made the invisible suddenly, catastrophically counted. Deli knelt and pried the sealed door until the old lock gave. Light spilled into the room. Yenu flinched from it, thin and gray and blinking, her long fingers still curled against her chest. "Come on," Deli said. "You are on the record now. You are a person now. They cannot touch a person." She did not move at first. Silence had kept her alive so long she did not trust the sound of her own footsteps. Then she reached out and took his hand, and she stepped over the threshold into the corridor, into the light, into a hallway where other doors were opening now, other gray faces emerging into the noise, because the whole floor had just been made loud, made real, made impossible to erase. The custodian contract collapsed within the month, its records subpoenaed by the same public network Deli had flooded, its practice of hunger by silence too documented to bury. But Deli did not think about that yet. That first night he thought only about the small, dry weight of Yenu's hand in his, and the sound she made as they walked out together, the first sound she had let herself make in a long time. She was chewing. He had put a fresh carton in her free hand, and she was eating as they walked, loud and unashamed and alive, and she did not once look back at the room that had almost kept her quiet forever.